All right, everybody. Hello, hello. It's Molly Gordon. Welcome to the May Wholeness Hangout. What's presence got to do with it? I just want to acknowledge I'm kind of broad in the beam today. I'm not sure what my camera settings are doing, but there it is. I have a new iMac. Got a new iMac about 2 months ago, and every once in a while, in Google Hangouts, it will broadcast this really wide picture, and I haven't figured out how to get around that. So if you know, you can tell me in the comments section, where you can also post questions and comments throughout the hour over on this Hangouts event page. So my guest today is Sara Harvey Yao. Sara is a leadership coach and consultant. She's an author. I'm going to pop on over and actually get the name of her book because it's worth knowing. Her book is called Get Present: Simple Strategies for Getting Out of Your Head and Leading More Powerfully. I have known of Sara for a number of years. She's done powerful work. I first knew of her work with women leaders. And in the last couple of years, I've had the pleasure of getting to know her better. She's one of the more delightful human beings on the planet. She's really, really smart, but not in a scary way. We like that.
I like that.
And she's really, really kind and loving and warm. And one of the things I most appreciate about you, Sara, is what I experience is your commitment to living from this thing called presence and to finding out what that has to teach you on a daily basis. And I just think you have so much integrity around that. So welcome, Sara Yao.
Thank you. Thank you. That may have been the best introduction I've ever received.
Yay! Cool. I know it's on YouTube.
I'm happy to be here today.
Yeah, good. Well, this is going to be fun. The Wholeness Hangout started, just about a year ago, when I wanted to do something to create a connection and build community around my growing understanding and unfolding understanding of how the human experience really worked. And actually, the first name for the Hangouts was the Happiness Hangout, because I wanted to point to our default setting of wholeness and well-being, which often incorporates happiness. But over the months, what I came to see for myself and clients and people participating is that happiness can be a bit of a red herring. It's like something we chase after.
Yeah.
And I thought wholeness was a better pointer toward default, that even when we're unhappy, I think it may be easier to glimpse that we're whole. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. And just that sense of okayness, a fundamental okayness, and well-being. I like all of that. There's just a piece to it, rather than the happiness is, in my experience, sort of the fleeting, comings and goings. But a very steady, once you really get in tune with it, a very steady, solid sense of okayness. Yeah.
So I'm curious, Sara, how your sense of that okayness has evolved over time.
Well, it has
evolved. Let's start with a small question. You can,
So,
1 or 2 sentences.
What's the purpose of your life? And it is still Friday morning before all caffeine has been consumed. Well, it has been an evolutionary process, for sure. I mean, as I look back to myself in my earlier years, and particularly my 20s, I was ruled by anxiety, worry, control, and I worked very, very hard at trying to control my life. So I think it's almost humorous that if someone knew me back then, that they would that they would say, "Oh yeah, Sarah's this picture of calm and groundedness and presence now." But I think that's true. I do practice, and it is really have just been an unpeeling, an unhinging from a lot of my reactive tendencies that I got from my earlier years, and it has. Even though there's been what I thought I was doing it, I was doing the work to come back to my natural state. As I'm reflecting on it now, it's sort of just been happening. I've been an active participant, but there's been I really truly can just be, and all the unhinging kind of is taking care of itself, which is refreshing.
No kidding.
I need to be an active and alert participant, but that sense of me having to do something or work towards something or even unhook from something, even that's fallen away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and serious liberation right there.
Yeah, that fascinates me, because me too. It's like the unhinging, taking care of itself. It's like, how did that happen?
That to me, even a year ago, I think would be mind bending. Me to what? I'm not the one in control of my awakening process. What?
Yeah, and I would love to point folks at what that's all about, because that is mind-blowing to me too, and it seems to be the core of what I've come to see, is that I don't have to do anything about it to make it better, to get better, to wake up, to relax, to get present. But how did you come to see, or what did you see?
In the beginning, or
what have you seen in the last year that you don't even do the unhinging?
I mean, truthfully, I have become deeply aware of consciousness, or an awareness, or presence, or God. I don't know what we want to call that. I still don't even know what I want to call that.
Yeah.
I don't really care. Become deeply in tune and aware of its presence all the time. I mean, and the visual I keep getting is that it's a dome over, me or my life or the world, and it takes care of itself. Like it wants to wake up. It wants to find itself through us. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. I remember hearing you for the first time.
But
for the first time, and be like, what?
I don't know if you want to take that to the bank or not.
Really? Smart gal. In other ways, but
well, I don't remember if I told you this story or not when we talked earlier this week, but it's coming to mind. And I think it has something to do with what we're pointing at in terms of not needing to do something, not needing to do something to wake up, not needing to do something to get present, not needing to do something to unhinge, and yet finding that more and more you're waking up, you're being present, you're unhinging. And what it is last Friday, I forgot to have an anxiety attack.
Oops.
I started and then I forgot. And I was running errands, and I think I was about to get out of my car. I don't even remember exactly where. And I felt this really intense tension in my solar plexus and felt my heart start to speed up. And I thought, oh, crap. You know, it felt really intense. And I thought, maybe this is real. Oh, crap. Maybe this is really going to happen. But what that maybe this is real means to me is there's a way in which I've come to truly see that whatever's going on for me is always a projection of my thinking, and not necessarily conscious thinking, because I didn't have anything on my mind consciously to be anxious about. And so I know at a pretty deep level that whatever I'm experiencing, however intense it is made up in the moment. And this next part, I didn't know as well, but I sure know it better now. To some extent, I knew and trusted that whatever I'm making up is part of an ongoing flow. That life, consciousness, thought is always moving. And if I don't grab onto an experience and make it significant and add to it, the odds are that it's going to be replaced by another experience any minute. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, like I said, this felt so intense. I thought, maybe this is real. And then I thought, and maybe not. So I turned the car on, I go down the road. The next thing I knew about the anxiety attack was that night I'm showering. And I went, holy crap, I forgot to have that anxiety attack.
Neat. I knew there was something I didn't have on my mind.
And it had so much potential. And it was really striking. And it struck me that, well, one, I didn't have to do anything. I didn't do deep breathing. I didn't even really make a decision to not invest in it. Well, I think I did. I realized that I could go down that road. I could start thinking about anxiety. I could start thinking in my history of anxiety. I could focus on a physical symptom. I could do some strategy to feel better. And it just occurred to me to not do anything about it. And sure enough, it resolved itself. And it blew my mind because, like I said, it really had potential.
I like that. It really had potential.
And so often, I think the intensity of our feelings we take as a barometer of how legitimate they are. And that, oh, this is really intense, so I really need to pay attention. And it's like, well, maybe not, actually.
I know.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I love that story.
I just loved it. I'm working on a blog post about it right now. It just cracked me up in the shower because I had a moment of real fear. I thought, okay, spiritual awareness, spiritual, forget it. I'm having a friggin' anxiety attack. It's not helping. It's not helping.
I know. And I think I'm more aware of it now as I look back on my life. I mean, even early years, the setups, the people, the reactions or non-reactions, whatever, it was always taking care of itself. Like there was sometimes a sense of having a deep conscious decision about something, and that's true. I made some hard choices along the way, and that was my active participation. But the fuel or the flow to the whole thing is not us.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something that folks who are watching or listening can do, is you can look at your own life and get a sense of the overall flow of it and see where you actually maybe didn't have to work it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can think of very distinct moments that were very important inflection points in my life or career. And I didn't consciously, or I didn't work at that. I literally showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, now getting the idea that you could just show up all the time, show up to and become aware, tune in to the presence of the moment and see what happens. I mean, there is a fundamental ease and peace, and truly happiness of that's available.
Yeah, that's actually available.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So this is a little different sense of presence than presence as it's a very different sense of presence than presence as something that you even cultivate.
Yeah. You know, they do say you teach what you need to learn. And so, you know, that my book came out about a year and a half ago, and I wrote it from the place I was, which was
Mm-hmm.
really tuning into the present moment. And there was a sense of active participation where I needed to carve out space in my schedule. I needed to set the boundaries around travel, or how much work I did, or how I took care of myself. There was a lot of active participation on my part. And it was, you know, the tip of the iceberg always first is even to become aware that there is a present moment. And I find that's important work, and that's hard. You know, I mean, there's it's not hard, but it takes a sense of active participation.
Mm-hmm.
But as I've deepened my own practice and my own experience of it, there's a more of a lightness and more of a freedom and more of a true sense of well-being, as I move along this path. I'm not done.
Yeah. Me either.
Well, boy, is it, you know, I mean, I thought the present, you know, tuning into the present moment was nice, but wow, this is it is a new level. It's a very, very, it's very quiet. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very quiet and peaceful place. And I'm not there all the time. I
Right.
still yell at my children.
Yes, I still have anxiety attacks in my car. I just forget to follow through.
Yeah. I sometimes don't forget to follow through with the I wish I did.
Right. Well, one of the things that I spend a fair amount of time reflecting on is that insight and presence illuminate the human experience. They, at least for me, I love the growing confidence I have that actually everything always is okay, and not just out here in some theoretical way, but that from the inside out, it's got to be okay.
Yeah.
And as a human being, I'm always producing this amazing, gripping, compelling movie of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And in the movie, scary shit happens.
Yep.
You know, sometimes I'm frightened by things outside of me. Sometimes I'm frightened by things that I think are inside of me. And so what I reflect on a lot is that there's a way in which I used to really look toward presence and insight as a way out of the discomfort of being human. You know, I wanted a get out of jail free card and to not have to feel crappy ever. Thank you very much.
Yep.
And it doesn't seem that that's actually what's on offer.
I know, it does not work. That does not work. You know, there's all sorts of things, right? The only way out is through, and all sorts of those fun little statements. The image that keeps coming to me is one of stepping into the river and just really truly allowing it, to take you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been, if there's been a practice, it has been let whatever emotion or feeling, as painful or ugly as that is, let it come up and fall fully into it. And I did not do this well from the beginning, but I think my system is getting used to it enough where we don't get to avoid, we don't get to use our spirituality as a nice bypass to the human experience of shitty emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And feelings. And you know that. I mean, I know you. And the more present I am, the faster that stuff passes.
Exactly.
I mean, really, like, just, again, the image is just laying down in the river and be like, all right, I guess that's surrender, right? Like, deep surrender. Here we go. I'm going to feel this all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And there, might be 72 hours of, if it's a big one, 72 hours of this is not fun, where it could look like I had a serious problem. And then it passes.
Right. And I think it's important that we not get hung up. I mean, I love that I spent 2 minutes or 5 minutes or however long it was wondering if this was going to be a significant anxiety attack. I love that it passed that long, but it could have lasted for 5 days.
Absolutely.
And the option is still available to just have the experience and there's a way in which we don't have to take our experiences personally.
Or seriously, yeah. What keeps coming up for me is I can imagine what this sounds like to people. This is a bunch of shit. Or, excuse me.
Exactly.
I don't know. We're not on live TV, right? And I think it's really important that we don't dilute the conversation or the language or the experience, even if you don't understand this yet. It's just important to know it's possible.
Yeah. And me too. I think I feel an obligation in a way to I feel an obligation to be real. I resent happy talk. I always have. I've had enough difficult experiences in my life. And when I call them joy junkies, people just go, everything's perfect. Everything works out. Everything has a reason. It's like, just shoot me or you.
I think I remember better.
Because that's not my experience. And so I don't want to do that thing. And yet I have had some insights that approach that I really want to make available to people. And one of the things that helped me in having those insights and in gaining understanding is what Sydney Banks talks about. Don't get too caught up in the ideas of it, the concepts, but look toward a feeling. And when I heard Sid say that on a recording, I thought, I know I think he used the phrase "a nice feeling." Doesn't sound all that informative, but those words, "a nice feeling," resonated in me. And I thought, I know what that nice feeling is. I've had that feeling. Mm-hmm. That feeling of being more or less okay and connected. I love your image of being in the river, in the stream of life. Feeling in some essential way my own okayness and the okayness of the world. And it's not that it endures through all things, but when Sid said, trust the feeling, find the feeling, look for a feeling, I thought, I can do that. And I began to give that feeling significance for me, so that it's almost like a navigational aid. Like there's a feeling that goes out like a light beam, and I trust what I notice and I trust what I see when I'm in that feeling. And my life experience is that when I'm in that feeling, I am more settled down. I'm smarter. I just do smarter things. I'm kinder.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a way in which I stopped trying to cultivate the feeling, which I used to do a lot of, and just started looking toward the fact that that feeling spontaneously arises. How cool is that? And there's something about recognizing that spontaneous arising and giving that credit and letting that mean something, that recognition invites more of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like occasionally it'll come to me to do something, like very occasionally it'll come to me to plant my butt on a meditation cushion. Often it will occur to me to go for a walk. I go for long walks and groove on the flowers. And if I didn't have better taste, my Instagram feed would be, 300 rhododendron pictures a day of the same rhododendron, because I'm just, you'd think I still smoke dope because I'm just standing in the street grooving on the rhododendrons. So that's a way that I get a nice feeling, but it's not really a strategy. It's like the feeling guides me to take the walk rather than the other way. Well, I guess to make this short, what I want folks to recognize is that you have in yourselves a history of that kind of feeling. And if you can find that and trust that, then you get to have more of that.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I've heard that feeling be referenced by Adyashanti as pre-existing wholeness or pre-existing peace. Like that was there before any of this life thing happened. Like it's inherently within you. And you use the tool of, find that nice feeling because it's there. Like we don't have to go try to find it or acquire it. It really is a matter of peeling through the conditioning or the fog and just accessing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was a fundamental important shift for me to know it was already there.
Mm-hmm.
So that I wasn't missing something already. There's an anxiety of feeling like you're missing something, so you have to go find it and grab it. I operated much of my life that way.
Mm-hmm.
And when the shift came to see, oh, it's actually already there, like really intrinsically feeling it is already there. And all my, quote unquote job is to access it.
Right.
Like, now that I think I can do, right? Like I'm going to go on a walk, or I am going to go dance, or I'm going to just go sit. Because all I have to do is access it and create a little bit of space to access it.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I hadn't heard that statement from Aja, but that's pre-existing well-being.
Yeah, it was either it's definitely pre-existing, either peace or well-being or wholeness. I can't, the pre-existing piece was the important word.
Exactly. I love that. Exactly. So it's not something we have to develop.
Exactly. Yeah.
it's more a matter of a recognition.
Yeah.
What's there. Shanti is a good guy. I like him.
He is awesome. I highly recommend his teaching and to follow him. Yeah, that's a very accessible teacher.
Right. So in the last year, Sara, what has been changing for you?
Oh, good Lord.
Another, just 3 or 4 words.
No. That's such a good question. All I can describe it as is a falling into, which may sound very disturbing to some people, but a true falling into my pre-existing, sense of peace. A lot of, my active participation has been being willing to look at my conditioned thoughts or my conditioned way of operating. So that's been my active part. I'm willing to look. That I can say with full integrity, I am willing to look. And I have looked in crevices and corners and cracks that I didn't even know were there. And they have been, I would say, maybe the ones closest to my heart. So perhaps the scariest ones that I've looked at, the way my marriage has been set up, and what were some of the unconditioned, or unconscious patterns we were looking at, and really looking at my attachment to that. And we've maneuvered through that beautifully, but I dug in there. And with my kids, I would say in the last year, these relationships, the ones closest to my heart, have been the ones I've been willing to really look at, let go of, which could cause your human side to freak out, but really let go of my attachment to the way these relationships play out, or thinking I need to control them, or thinking, well, there's a million ways of thinking, but I would say in the last year, I have gone deeper, closer to my heart, and unearthed some of the unconscious thoughts and conditioning that I didn't even know were there, but I had the wherewithal and I was willing.
Willingness. That's a beautiful word.
Yeah. It's not, I used to say committed.
Mm-hmm.
But it's felt that even evokes kind of a strength or determination. Mm-hmm. And now it's softer. It's definitely softer now. It is just a willingness. And really, believe it or not, my mantra has been just do what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Do what you need to do.
What strikes me about the word committed right now, in contrast to willingness, is that there's a way that commitment has a willful element. It's innocent, I'm committed, I'm doing my best, but it's like my will, I have decided what's important and I shall follow through.
Oh my God, I was so committed to that word for years, and it really served me.
Mm-hmm. But
you're right. It's it is was rooted for quite a while in willfulness.
So it occurs to me to ask a question about what motivates you. I often talk to people who are afraid that if they just settle down and find the nice feeling, that they're going to lose motivation.
Should we tell them the truth?
No. Oh, sure. Why not?
Oh, you're going to lose motivation. I joked just earlier that I've lost all my personal will, and I believe that to be true.
Mhm.
Like, and this is scary, and I will just tell this to everybody's rational minds. This will sound horrible, and it's been wonderful. But I literally can't will myself into anything anymore. I literally cannot force myself to create a new program for work if it is not truly coming from an inspired place.
Yeah.
I have lost this identity around making stuff happen. Like oh, and trust me, my bank account sure looks like I make stuff happen now, but I cannot make stuff happen.
Yeah, me too.
And in fact, it's gotten so bad or good, whichever way you want to think about it in the dualistic way, that even if I'm not making it happen, but if there's even just a twinge of something being off or misaligned, I can't do it. Like every bone in my body is like, nope, which is very inconvenient for my little go-getter ego, right? Very inconvenient. It just pisses it off. Really. Like, book number 2, I don't even know how long.
Me too. It's just like,
God.
yeah, my ego is going to have to get its jollies somewhere else because I'm not providing it a lot of stuff to be proud of.
I know. Poor little fella. And mine is a fella.
Yeah, well, I love that you're being so honest and transparent about it, and that's been me too. It just doesn't make sense to me to add friction to my life or to the world. And so if I have to push, and there's a difference. I mean, I'm a gardener, and I will push and dig and pull and, put as much effort and work into a project as is necessary to move a rock or to do something. But there's a way in which if I'm pushing against a made up something, I mean, I'm fine with pushing against a rock because I know I want to move it. But if I'm creating stress in myself by pushing to make something happen, it's just a way that doesn't make any sense to me anymore. And it occurred to me a few weeks ago, it's like I'm living in a different 80-20 rule where 80% of the things that occur to me just aren't that important. So I just don't go there.
I like that.
And the 20% that remains is the more turns out to be really highly leveraged. I mean, my bank account is looking surprisingly good. I'm working a fraction of the time I used to work. And in February, I actually was afraid to look because I had so much more money in the bank than I expected. And I thought, if I really take a close look, I'm going to find I have to give somebody some back.
It's just around the corner. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, and I don't mean to be suggesting that you're magically going to make a lot of money by not working hard. That's not the message here at all. Mm-hmm. But I have discovered that there's no necessary link between pushing myself and making a good living.
Oh, yes. Hallelujah. Yes, yes, yes.
And there's a way in which I believe that the energy that's freed up by not pushing is transformed into one of two things. For me, a lot of it is just transformed into pure delight. It's just easier to be alive. Mm. And I'm experiencing so much moment-to-moment enjoyment of a kind of friction-free life that it doesn't have to produce any more than that. I mean, it's like what I was always after by doing stuff was to feel like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing that is produced by that, when that energy is freed up, is your creativity gets a chance to rock and roll when something occurs to me to rock and roll with.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like to think about it. It's just a hell of a lot more precise. There's a precision to the way the energy is being used. We're not having to burn and churn with trying to force anything to happen. I mean, going back to the river analogy, that really is like trying to swim upriver. If that gives you a sense that you are not in a river, then go for it. But you're in a river. So you might as well just turn around, lay down, let the thing take you. Because there's an efficiency, there's a precision, there's a flow to it, and then you're not wasting energy.
Oh, that's a really beautiful word. I love using precision in that sense.
That's my other real intention is just deep precision about how my energy is being used.
Oh, that is really gorgeous. Yay.
And then we can just go walk go walk or go be with the kids or go garden or whatever. And we know, and we can rest into the precision of how our energy is being used.
It occurs to me that that's a different take than being intentional. What occurs to me in this moment is that when I used to be intentional, I was trying to be precise. But I thought it was up to me to come up with the right intention and set it and be intentional and track it. And now it's more of discovering what intention wants to unfold in the moment.
Yes. So kind of going back to my mantra, do what you need to do. Do what you need to do. Just be precise about it.
So how do you know what you need to do?
Well, I first usually start with knowing what I don't need to do, because I am now aware enough of my body sensations that and that's been a path of work of really getting connected into the body. I sure know what not to do. I have strong senses of what not to do. And then I don't know if it's equally strong sensations of what I need to do, but there is sort of there's a lack of discord in my body when there is something I need to do. Sometimes there's a kind of a bubbling or an excitement energy to it. I have to check that one sometimes, because that's sometimes my mind likes to get that, but it's usually just a pretty quiet yes. It really is. When I tune into it, it's just a yes. And that's it's taken some time for me to build trust into trusting my instincts or my body's awareness of what to do and what not to do. But it's really the first place I start is what not to do. So that one's become more obvious to me over the last year and a half or so.
Yeah, what not to do is the easier thing for me to distinguish, because it makes a bigger impression.
Oh, definitely.
A bigger somatic impression.
Yeah, definitely. And often I'm like, what sounds fun? What's easiest? What is the most inflow thing here? An example of this is one I'm sort of in right now, which is the second book that I started last year or last summer, and it became very obvious in my body that I needed to stop, and I just did. I gave myself permission to just stop and go through whatever process I was going through. And then I felt an inspiration to pick it up again this year, earlier in the year, and have been writing, and then it shifted. So, and now it is a deep awareness that this is not it. This is not it, even after I put in many, many hours of writing.
Wow.
Damn it. Right? Many hours of writing, like, no, I actually think I very well may need to throw it all out and that be okay. But there's, it's never just this linear process, right? Where, oh, I started a project and then I got halfway through it and now it's changing. Like, that's very disconcerting for the mind. But because I've been cultivating the connection with my body and really been willingness to be aware, it's guiding me, even though it looks like it might have been a waste.
Right. I wrote a blog post once some years back about basically the bottom line is there's no such thing as waste. It's just some of it's compost, and we didn't know that when we were making it.
Exactly. Yeah.
What occurs to me too, Sara, is that I find the what not to do such a big part of my path right now and of my experience, because when I recognize that, and that 80% of what used to occupy my mind drops out, that's what makes it quiet enough to hear the 20% that is beckoning.
Yeah.
And it's also what makes it quiet enough. It took me a while to just get used to it being so darn quiet.
It is quiet. That's
a little disconcerting.
Oh, like,
you don't understand. I've worked hard to develop this mind.
I know.
I'm not thinking a lot was the point.
I know. It's so part of that introduction that you gave me was so nice when you called me smart in a not scary way, because it was nice. It was nice for my mind. Like, yes, look, someone actually still sees you as smart when I've basically had to be willing to let all of that go. Whatever my identity around being smart or needing to be smart, I never felt smart enough. When I finally let that go, look at that. I actually believe it. There is a deep wisdom. It's not smart. It's a deep wisdom that I have access to now.
Right.
Yeah.
And then as we get access to that deeper wisdom, whatever kind of technical smarts, mechanical smarts that we have in these brains of ours can serve that.
Yes. Yeah. The origination came from somewhere other than, the little peewee brain.
Well, one of the things that I have so admired in you for as long as I've known you is that it seems to me that your mechanical, technical, smart brain has never gotten in the way, or at least never for very long, of your deeper wisdom. And I just see you as having tremendous integrity around always going in the direction and serving that deeper wisdom, even when it's inconvenient, like throwing out a book that's half done.
When you say that, I'm like,
maybe that's not so smart.
No, it's smart. What's so interesting is I look back on my whole life. As early as I can remember, I had body sensations, a knowing, a deep knowing, and tuning into the energy of situations and people. My mind, my like technical brain has never been, I have never identified with it as being very sharp or like my gift. And in fact, have went through many years of feeling like I was in a significant deficit with my technical brain, even though I could manage my business and get a master's degree and things like that. My identity was really kind of bummer about that, not having a really smart brain.
Yeah, that's too bad about that.
And then
inferior brain in the MBA thing, because we all know it's easy to get an MBA.
Totally. It's not an MBA. It's just a master's in arts.
Oh, okay. Still.
I barely got through my finance classes, but now I see, oh my God, what a gift that was, that I didn't have too much identity wrapped up in the smartness of my brain, because that would have been even more to kind of trudge through and let go of.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the technicality of my brain serves me when I need it. I know how to manage numbers. I know how to write. I know how to speak and how to research. But it's been just enough and not gotten in my way too much.
That's really perfect.
Oh, God. Yeah. Because it's been rough to get through that, the compulsion of thinking that my brain is the most important part of me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, I've been very identified with my brain for a lot of my life. But as I was listening to you, it just kind of cracked me up that our stories really demonstrate how we make up these identities for ourselves. And I don't know another way to go through life. So
Oh yeah.
As far as I know, I'm not about to drop my latest identity. But it's just so clear to me that the identity I'm trying to protect and the ego that I want to keep safe is made up. It's a phantom, Molly. And there's also a sweetness there. There's a sweetness about that somehow.
Oh yeah. We're just trying. Like, aren't we all just trying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, that's another thing that I have seen more clearly than ever in the last year or so, is that everybody really is always, by definition, doing their level best based on how they're understanding themselves in life.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense that anyone would be trying to do it any differently, because our self-interest, innocent self-interest, is such that we're just always going to do the best we can given what we think we have to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm not, I wholeheartedly agree and still forget that sometimes. Really, really easy to forget, especially when someone's less palatable with how they approach you.
Mm-hmm. Right. Very true. Very true. And sometimes I would just like to improve their best. Let me just give you a little help here so your level best could be more like what I have in mind for you.
I'll just give you a word of advice. Yeah.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Even coming from that place of that is true compassion. Boy, does that make life easier too. I mean, that really helps that sense of well-being, sense of happiness.
So what connection are you seeing there?
Between compassion
and your sense of well-being?
I see them as one in the same. I think when I'm really coming from that really stable inner awareness, where I have tuned into a wisdom, where I really honestly can access a sense of okayness, deep okayness with me, the natural thing that happens is that there's a natural okayness with everything. Everybody, even, believe it or not, even every natural disaster, even, violence, there is a sense of okayness. That doesn't mean that I'm passive. It doesn't mean that I don't care, or don't take action when action is called for. But my first origination place is compassion.
Yeah.
And that's the natural state That's our natural state. Presence is our natural state. That is the pre-existing state of compassion.
Nicely stated. I remember Byron Katie saying, "Love feeds the hungry child." People say, if there's not a problem, what do you do about starving children? And she says, well, love feeds the hungry child. And we don't have to make ourselves feel bad in order to do that loving thing.
Yes.
Feeding the hungry, caring for the sick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very inspired, powerful, very fierce action can come from that place of compassion. But that is the most effective origination of the action, right? Is from that place of compassion. And again, you don't have to work to get to a place of compassion. When you are really tuned into the own awareness of presence, that is a natural byproduct.
Yeah. I don't know how to. There's a way in which I'm always wishing I were a more compassionate person, and it's interesting to reflect on that, because I can see in this conversation how wanting to be more compassionate is like coming at it from the wrong side somehow. Well, I know, because it's a preoccupation with my identity as a nice person.
Hate to break it to you, Molly.
And as long as I've got that preoccupation going on and I'm working on me, I'm out of touch to that extent with that well-being from which compassion stems, as you were saying so beautifully.
Right. Well, it reminds me of what you were talking about with intention.
Yeah.
Similar.
That's a hoot.
And by all means, don't want to give the impression I've got this nailed by any means. This is an ongoing unfolding.
Right.
Probably will last my entire lifetime. But boy, is this been a very powerful, rewarding, healing journey.
Yeah. It's exciting. It's nice to know, and I hope people have a sense of that feeling we were talking about earlier, and that you'll look to your own lives and your own experiences for that feeling of connection and presence and okayness and well-being.
Yeah.
That pre-existing peace, pre-existing well-being that's not about how you're showing up in the moment. And let that have its way with you, rather than trying to do anything to get an insight from this. You're already there.
So counter-logical and so right on.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Anything else that you'd like to say before we close for the day, Sara? Well, one thing, just for the heck of it. Yeah. We are on the internet, so please share your website.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. YAOconsulting.com. So it's YAO consulting.com. And I've got my own podcast show there and lots of blog posts and a special report of just 15 ways to get from autopilot to presence. So like just easy ways of waking up. So it's all there at YAOconsulting.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Sara, for being here today. I've learned a couple of things today, which is really fun. I wasn't necessarily looking for that, and I certainly had a great time.
Me too. Thank you.
So bye, everyone. At the bottom of the page, if you're on my website, there's a link to the other hangouts in this series. In June, I'm thinking of changing the day till Thursday, so stay tuned. Couldn't get more exciting than that. And thanks again for watching, everybody. Take care and be well.
Thank you.